It is awesome to get to be with you guys, and very thankful to do this now, I think, for the sixth time. And it's an honor to be invited back. And I hope that our conversation today is life-giving. I hope it's encouraging to you. That I go into this, by the way, just so I don't insult anyone's intelligence. I go into this assuming that just a baseline of what the DeFi ecosystems look like and are is necessary, even though some of you very likely have more experience and understanding in it, uh, maybe even than I do. But some of you probably have a greater understanding of the DeFi and the crypto ecosystem side of things. Some of you may not. And so I try to go into it and give a bit of a baseline and then leave plenty of time for conversation. So having said that, I'll tell you real quickly who I am. So we're not strangers, even though I know for time's sake, I wish for time's sake we were in more of like a full day setting where I could get to know each of you, but I'll follow you on Twitter. If you'll follow me, then I'll know you're following me, and let me know, DM me, let me know in here that you're going to follow me and what your Twitter handle is, and I'll follow you and keep up with your work, keep up with your art. I love to do that with all of the residents and the cohorts. I spoke at NFT NYC this year, and I used one of the VCA resident uh, former cohort residents NFT and drawing that she had done of me as my PFP in the program and on the screen and with NFT NYC. Um, and it was really cool. Natalie LaRode, a former resident in the cohorts here. So excited for what you're doing and the work that you do, and I'll follow along with it. I am the content lead currently for TRON blockchain. If you don't know much about TRON blockchain, it's the second largest public blockchain in the world. We have the most daily active users of any blockchain, and we move more USDT than Ethereum. And we have the second largest total value locked of finances staked on the blockchain, only second to Ethereum, but ahead of Binance. And so incredible DeFi blockchain. That's really the strength of Tron. In the past, I've worked with a lot of NFT projects. I helped launch people like Jeremy Cowart and Ryan Tedder and others into the NFT space. They now are running on their own, but that's more my style. I don't try to be the manager long term for people, but just help onboard them and get them into it. And so I've done a lot of those things with NFT projects. I was in the nonprofit world for a long time, about almost 3 decades. And I've been a business entrepreneur and starter with several different companies for 10 years as well. And so that's kind of my background. I'm married. I have 7 kids, and we live in the Middle Tennessee area near Nashville, if any of you know where Nashville is. So that's a little bit about me and who I am. So let me dive in and share. Well, I'll stop for a second and give anybody a chance to ask a question if you do have a question about my background, and if not, we'll dive into the slides that I was going to show you. Yeah, 7 kids. Wow, we is right. It's a lot of fun. So we never have a dull moment. We've got one graduating from high school this year, and we've got one that just will be graduating next year from college, but he just got hired with a music production team here in Nashville. He's a music producer. He has some of his own music too. In fact, if you want to check it out, you're welcome to check it out. You may dig it because he's an artist himself, but Hebron Music on almost all platforms. And he also has a Genesis Founders NFT on OpenSea with one of his singles, if you're interested. So You can check that out. He has some on Tezos too, by the way. Tezos, Hebron Music, and OpenSea, Hebron Music both. All right, so let me share screen, and I'm already live in here. I've got that going. So let me throw some stuff out to you here. So let's talk about crypto ecosystems and DeFi. First of all, let's break down the terms. I'm not trying to insult your intelligence. And if anyone has a question, by the way, what my style is, I'd love to converse and not just talk to you. So if you have a question, interrupt me and say, hey, I want to, ask a question about that. And I'll try to go back and forth between and looking at the chat as well, if that makes sense. So quick breakdown of terms. Cryptocurrency, you know what that is. It's a digital currency derived from cryptographic, and the way to understand cryptocurrency is it's a currency that has been derived from a blockchain tech community, basically. It's the blending of community and commerce. And so if you can think about, imagine a borderless world that's more where community is more leveraged by what's happening with arts and learning and science and all of technology, and that is developing a community and a borderless society that needs its own currency, not driven or regulated, or regulated is not the right way to say it because we don't mind regulation, but not restricted by geography or by central authorities. And so it's a currency that was invented to create peer-to-peer exchange concepts and a new way to have community and commerce together. And so what I love about crypto and what I love about the spirit of DeFi is that, and I'm jumping into the chat on my phone so I can see if in case you ask a question on the chat now, I can see it on my phone. But it's one of those things where if you don't think of crypto as currency, then I think you only think of it as typically like a stock or a security, which it is not. And obviously there are a lot, even TRON is one of the groups, being the founder of TRON, not TRON itself, being sued by the SEC here in the States for security reasons and different reasons, regulation reasons, compliance reasons. But we don't think it's a security. We think it's a currency, and I think if you don't think of crypto that way, you're misunderstanding it. I would say in the West, a lot of people do think of it more like an investment, but there are so many other places in the world where crypto is a need, and it provides an access to finance and the global economy to a group of people who've never even had that chance. And so it's an unprecedented moment in financial history. And I think crypto and blockchain technology and smart contracts are making it possible. So the blockchain is basically a distributed network of computers that validate that commerce and community. And every time that validation occurs, a new block occurs, and it creates this never-ending chain that has a permanency. You can't go back and erase. You can fork off of it, but you can't go back and erase it. Smart contracts are a technology that basically enables an automation of all if-then agreements. And so there's even evolved smarter smart contracts now called canisters that the Internet Computer Protocol has created. They can talk to each other. They communicate with APIs. They can make HTTPS calls. I mean, so their smart contracts are going to be revolutionary when it comes to how the internet works, how commerce works, how social and community works. Smart contracts are going to make it possible for you as an artist to be paid immediately and to be guaranteed payment because the money is in the wallet that's been connected to the smart contract. And so there's a lot of reasons why smart contracts are going to make a difference in the world and in what's happening both in the arts and in science and technology and education and healthcare and real estate. I think it's going to be very disruptive for every industry. And And so William Intrican, who is the author of the original, what's now called the NFT smart contract, the ERC 721. And he's actually an advisor with with the Tron blockchain. But if you don't know his name or who he is, I encourage you to just do a little bit of history reading and understand why they created and authored that smart contract. But it's what enables it is what enabled NFTs to be what they are today. And so pretty interesting. Let me pause right there and see if anybody has any questions on crypto, blockchain, smart contracts, NFTs as smart contracts, or crypto as currency. Any questions so far? I am not seeing anything. Let me make sure I'm not missing something. You can still hear me, right? All right, good. All right, so if you have any questions, just stop me. I'll keep going. So what is Bitcoin? We can watch a short video, but I'll throw the links here in the in your 6 cohort later so that you can watch it. And the reason I say that is because the site that put these 2 videos out, they sold to another company. And so that now these videos that I have linked here are not available anymore. I'll have to get them over to you. It's a basic 1-minute video that explains that Bitcoin is kind of the peer-to-peer exchange cryptocurrency technology that kind of started all of this. And there was actually something that happened back in the 90s related to encrypted currency exchange. And it really doesn't ever get much press or thought, but Bitcoin is what took all of the evolution of that technology and really took it and put it on the map. And so whoever Satoshi Nakamoto is, or if it's a person or if it's a group, whoever it is, created this brilliant game-changing technology that I think is probably going to be just as revolutionary as the internet was with regard to what commerce and community look like on a global scale. And so Bitcoin needs to, if you're not a Bitcoin, I'm not a Bitcoin maxi. If you don't dig Bitcoin, I at least encourage you to respect it because it's what has given a lot of the opportunity that we have today. Bitcoin's not easy to build on, and so Vitalik Buterin created something called Ethereum, and had a group of founders with him who did that, and it basically was a more buildable version of the blockchain technology that Bitcoin introduced, and so it allowed for in the same way that the internet basically created an online platform for commerce. Ethereum allowed for basically the creation of an online um, application building component to what blockchain technology really is, if that makes sense. And so Bitcoin really laid that foundation, continues to be have a huge strength in the industry. But Ethereum opened the door for technology building upon that that blockchain idea. So a quick history, then you can see, and this doesn't take us all the way to 2023. This is a couple years old here, but you can see Bitcoin 2009. Litecoin launched in 2011 to try to give a less expensive version, although it wasn't very expensive at the time. Ripple was founded in 2012. They get a lot of criticism because they really, I think, have committed themselves to be a bridge between traditional finance and decentralized finance. But they're also doing a lot to help countries with central bank digital currencies, which, by the way, is not the same thing as a stable coin. And so central bank digital currencies are much more related to the central authorities that a lot of cryptocurrency was created to provide opportunity outside of. And so, but Ripple has continued to stay committed to this, and they will eventually likely demonstrate the strength of what they've been doing because they'll provide a really significant bridge between TradFi and DeFi. You see Bitcoin reach $1,000 in 2013. It did plummet again in 2014. In 2015, Ethereum launched, like we talked about. Um, and then in 2017, there were a number of other cryptocurrencies listed. Many of them were layer twos off of Ethereum. There were some other layer ones. The EOS blockchain offered another what most people called a cheaper opportunity than building on Ethereum, and that continues. But now you've got Tezos and Solana and ICP and Cosmos and Avalanche and so many others that you could list out that are layer ones. Tron being another one of those. That's a layer one blockchain that you can build on, and that is a little bit more affordable and eco-friendly to build on, even than Bitcoin and Ethereum. And so as it moves into the future, you see more than just DeFi and all of these. You see a whole lot of other use cases, and it's what a lot of people ended up calling Web3. And so before we dive into Web3, let me pause for a second and see if you have any questions on Bitcoin, ETH, or the evolution so far of crypto. All right. It's okay if you don't have questions. That either means I've made it incredibly unclear and you don't feel like you can do do anything to get it, or maybe I've made it clear and you're all good. I just want to make sure you're still with me though. So uh, everybody tracking with me. All right. So with regard to Web3, it's what a lot of people have termed. In fact, in 2014, Gavin Wood, although I don't know that it's technically original to him, but he's who typically gets credited with the term Web3. And uh, all that to say, it's kind of like the all-encompassing wrap-up word that people use to talk about what's happening with blockchain tech and with the next iteration of the internet embracing and integrating blockchain technology, cryptocurrency, NFT smart contracts, and metaverse concepts. And so Web one was all about writing and reading for an audience, right? I remember those days. I'm 48, so I remember those days when we were creating websites so that you could just tell someone your business was there, right? And then Web 2 was about buying and selling. So it introduced commerce and introduced social concepts. And so this was really the introduction of commerce and community, but people were limited in the sense that only people who had access to the internet could engage in it. Only people who really understood why it mattered could engage in it. And then a lot of people couldn't really engage in the commerce. Maybe they were bankless. Maybe they didn't have access to credit, so they couldn't have a credit card. And so there were a lot of limitations there. Well, blockchain technology begins to push back those limitations and those restrictions and creates this new iteration of the internet where you can create, own, share, and manage anything together. And an example I like to use is Travala.com. How many of you have heard of Travala.com? Give me a heart or a love or a something if you haven't. All right. So Travala.com, and this isn't a plug for Tron, by the way. I'm just letting you know they do take cryptocurrency, and Tron is one of the many cryptocurrencies they take. But Travala.com is a travel website that allows you to pay with credit card, but also with crypto. And you might say, well, why is that a big deal? Well, it's a great example of what Web3 is offering to people. Because let's imagine that you're someone who lives in a region of the world where it's difficult to have access to credit, so you may not have a credit card. If that's the case, then it's incredibly difficult for you to um, to get a plane ticket or to get transportation on a train or to get it's not easy, right? Like you have to bring cash of whatever your local currency is and go to the actual station or the actual airport. Somebody may not be able to even get cash. I mean, you're seeing it in certain countries right now where there's restriction on bank withdrawals. And so someone who lives in a certain country has, for whatever reason, gotten into crypto, right? They have a mobile phone or they had a computer, and they're able um, to get a wallet, and they're able to get crypto. And you might say, how could they get crypto? They didn't have a bank. Maybe they do work. Maybe they do contract work and someone pays them in a stable coin, right? So now all of a sudden they have this stable coin. This is happening, by the way. This happens in different places. Nigeria is one of them, for example, where someone's contracted, they get paid in USDT or USDC or USDD or whatever. Some even get paid in Bitcoin, and they then can go to Travala.com if they want to go and travel and visit a friend, or travel and take a vacation, or travel and visit family. Maybe they have family that's in a difficult situation. They want to go and help. Like now with cryptocurrency, there's an opportunity to do that in a way that it wasn't before. That's what Web3 empowers. It creates this opportunity for people who have never had access to credit, who've never had a chance to really have that kind of exchange and in commerce and community on a global scale, to now have that access. So it's just another iteration of where the internet's going in the way that it can empower people. Um, so I see it on the chat too here in Argentina. In fact, we get stories for the Tron, because I'm content lead. I hear the stories of people in Argentina who are leveraging Tron, TRX or USDT or USDD, to have a stable currency in which they can interact with there and also on a global scale. And so, agree with you. I personally, since 2021, have been paying probably about 20% of our bills with crypto. Whether it's our mortgage, like from time to time, or whether it's travel. I mean, this year alone, I've paid for 3 different volleyball tournaments for me and my daughter, my oldest daughter, the one graduating, she'll end up playing college volleyball. But we've gone to tournaments for her, and I've paid for the entire weekend with crypto, right? Because I had a crypto debit card. And so, all that to say, this Web3 is empowering and enabling this opportunity for people that have never had this opportunity. I hear you. And if you don't want to sell it, but you have a chance to get, you don't want to sell your crypto, you exchange your crypto is really technically the word there. You don't want to exchange it for another currency, for fiat currency, because it's giving you stability, but this gives you an opportunity. Travala.com, Uquid, UQUID, is a commerce site that's almost like an Amazon. It has a lot of different products. They're already taking crypto. I mean, there's lots of opportunity to get you a chance to keep moving toward debanking, and I'm with you on that, by the way. I'm assuming Ether, AETHER. I'm with you on that. Um, I'm trying to move our family into more of that bankless setting, even though we're here in the U.S., just because I think it's important. Um, there you go, the anarchist. All right. So unique opportunities here. Any questions, real quick, before we continue? I'm just going to quickly run through these to make sure we've got a baseline, and then we'll talk a little bit more about some of the ecosystems. Any questions? All right. So NFTs, you know what they are. I'm not going to insult your intelligence there. I think NFT technology personally, and I'm not talking about just the artwork, but I think NFT technology will be the most disruptive thing to industry, will be the most disruptive tool for all industries over the next 10 years. I think people are waking up to the reality of the significant opportunity that NFT technology offers, whether it's real estate, healthcare, education, music, especially. I know someone in all of those industries that's learning how to integrate NFT technology to change those industries. Music, for example, I own a lot of music NFTs, and one of the music NFTs I have, one of the guys' name's Domino, and he calculated how much he had made in music NFTs so far, and he would have had to have had 80 million streams on Spotify to make the same amount. And I don't know if you are familiar with it, but like 80 million streams on Spotify, I mean, that's that's almost unheard of for most artists, right? And so pretty amazing the opportunity. One young lady that we're connected with, and I even had her at I teach a course at Belmont Belmont University here in Nashville on blockchain and NFT technology. And and I had Violetta Zeroni. If any of you heard of Violetta, I had her in class with us recently to talk about what she's done with music NFTs, and she, in 6 years of trying the streaming route, and she even had a record label sign her during that time. Over those 6 years, she only made 26K from streaming. She made all the rest of the money she made in music was from touring. But with music NFTs and the dedicated community she has, on her first drop, she made over $260,000 on music NFTs. And so it's one of those where not everybody has that kind of success, but it's an incredible example of how NFT technology is affecting various industries, and the music industry is definitely one of those. So let me pause here. Let's see question. Make sure I'm seeing it. Y'all are hearing me okay, right? All right, so I'm going to ask the same question as last time. I've heard eventually blockchain will be majority owned, controlled by big business. Your thoughts? Oh, yeah, let me answer that. Let me make sure I'm seeing these others here. So, Ether, I would say, where can you go learn about that? I would go follow um, Sammy Arriaga, uh, Violetta Zeroni, um, Josh Savage, Ray Isla. These are some of the music NFT artists that have really pioneered this, and I know them all, and they really are trying to help young artists who are trying to break into the game. And so follow them on Twitter, message them, respond to them, get on the Twitter spaces. Sammy and Violetta do a lot of Twitter spaces. And if you're a holder of Violetta's music NFT, she even does a small Zoom concert and Discord concert every Friday for about 30 minutes. And so that's a way, Ether, that you can get into that. Um, let's see. And then best ecosystems for music NFTs. You're welcome. All right, so the right now, I think the best ecosystem for music NFTs personally is Polygon. However, a lot of those people I just listed are still selling either on Ethereum or Polygon. I do think Tezos has the type of setup blockchain wise that can handle it. The one that I'm really hoping launches out soon with it is ICP. And so you're seeing Internet Computer Protocol, Canistore, and Token Tracks, and some others like that on ICP are trying to really break in and provide that opportunity. But you can move data so much cheaper on Tezos versus Ethereum. And so, but then also Gala Music really has done a good job. So if you attention to what Gala, the layer 2, um, with music NFTs. So let me address real quickly the question about blockchains beginning to be owned by centralized businesses. Um, I personally am not as concerned about that yet. And I say yet because um, I still feel like the ethos and the spirit of decentralization is strong um, among those who lead the various blockchains. But you're gonna have ones like Anchor, ANKR, where Google now has a lot of nodes on Anchor in the distributed network for that blockchain. You've got Microsoft, I think, trying to remember which one um, they were. Now I'm drawing a blank on the one, or maybe they were the ones that did Anchor. Um, anyway, Microsoft just has really bought into one. Google has bought into one. Anchor is connected to one of those. Hedera is definitely going after enterprise money from different corporations. Ripple as well. I mean, I think you're going to see, though, groups like Gala and Polygon and Tezos and Solana and ICP really, I personally think Internet Computer Protocol is doing an incredible job of staying out of the corporate hands. So I think you're going to see a number of them really maintain their strength and focus in providing decentralized applications and decentralized technology and commerce. Bitcoin, you could argue, is being taken over by corporate and by government and central authorities. Um, and you could make that argument based upon the amount of Bitcoin that's owned by the number of corporations and governments that have it. But I do think that at some point, as more and more we're still so early. I think mass adoption as it comes, you're going to see the ethos of decentralization really take hold, and it's going to be difficult to harness that and rein it back in. Does that answer your question? Yeah, Hedera does some. I mean, I've got some. Hedera does some really cool stuff. Um, all right. Any other questions before we move on?
Question.
Right.
Uh, I'm making some tunes for my animations, and that's because I have interest in NFT music, but I don't know what is better if I sell my music, my tunes in mix it with my animations or whatever, or alone, just my tunes. And I don't know. Uh,
You don't know which one would be better?
yes, what's come close to your info?
Yeah, I mean, I think personally, I would say if you are gifted in the animation area and the music area, I definitely would encourage you to combine them. And I think it opens an opportunity for you to create art with platforms like Sound XYZ. Um, and I'll put some of these here. Gala Music. Um, uh, Token Tracks. And then I'm trying to remember, there's one that a buddy of mine, Tommy D, the producer Tommy D, does out of London. maybe it's Token Tracks, but I thought there was another name to it. So there's a lot of different platforms where you can launch it out, and if you've got the animation to go with it, and there's others too you could do. I mean, you can do Nifty, and I'm drawing a blank on the second word, Nifty whatever. I'll have to look it back up. I've used it and directed people to it for a while now, but there's a number of platforms that would allow you to really leverage the fact that you can do both animation. Yeah, I think it is Nifty Gateway, and but it would allow you to do both. And let me look it up here real quick, and I'll tell you.
Really helpful. Thank you. Thanks a lot. I'm a little nervous because my English is not my best language, but thank you so much.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think, yeah, let's see, tokentracks.com. There's, Nifty Gateway. There's also one I saw recently called mymintchip.com. So I mean, there's a number. Keyspace.click is one if you want to really go your own way and create some token gated community. That's a good one as well. But I would say, Amanda, that you have a great opportunity by combining your animation with your with your music. And like, I'll give you an example. So this is me on OpenSea, at least. I have NFTs on seven different blockchains, but and I've had more of Violetta's. I have others as well, and I've also sold some of hers too. But here's Violetta. I mean, this animation, or this not animation, but artwork, and then this animation was done by somebody that used to work at Disney. And so, I mean, she's done a good job of combining art with it. Same thing for Sammy. Yaga. So you can see some of the work here. He just did an animated music video. This one is really interesting. You can see and so I just give you those as some examples. I think one of my favorites, though, and this is where it gets a little more complicated because of all the coding that goes into this, but this one here is one of my favorites because they created a 10-song music NFT. And this is where all of you, if you're not a music person, but you're an artist person, you can team up. And so see what they did here? They created a 10-song music NFT, and the art and the animation of it changes as each song plays. So does that make any sense? Like, it's a great opportunity, in my opinion, for you to really get diverse in the way that you're approaching things. And you artists on here, if you're not in music, again, I mean, pair up with some that are in the music side. and you'll really be of use to create unique art and unique animation and unique videos for them to go with the songs that come out. I think you're going to see more and more blending and collabs like that. Like the collab that I did for Ryan Tedder, who you may know who Ryan Tedder is. He's a singer-songwriter. He's the lead singer of One Republic. But we did a European graffiti artist collab with Bust Art and Ryan Tedder for his original release, and it turned out incredible. And so yeah, and on Tezos, I agree. I mean, I personally think Tezos is an incredible platform with a lot of opportunity and growth opportunity for the music NFT space if you're into that. All right, let me wrap this up real quick, and then we'll close out with some questions. So we talked about NFTs, DAOs. If you don't know what a DAO is, it's a decentralized autonomous organization. It's basically a way for a group of people to come together around a purpose, a cause, or a business and invest in it together and leverage decentralized finance to do that. You've got the metaverse, which you know what it is. I personally think metaverse is one thing, just like the internet is, and you have the internet, right? You don't have multiple internets. I think we're going to see the metaverse, and eventually you're going to see it be this blending of augmented reality, virtual reality, and physical reality. I personally don't think that the big goggles that are closed off are the future. I think that'll be a step in this process. I think the future will be more glasses that you can see through, and so it's going to create more of an augmented reality that combines the virtual and the physical, and the digital and the physical together. That's just my opinion. But I think you're seeing it play out. So pretty interesting there. All right, and then AI. I mean, people love AI or they hate AI, right? And I think for right now, before it takes us all over and annihilates the human race, we should at least appreciate what the technology can do. That was a joke, by the way, although it's kind of not funny. But like, Chain, for example, on-chain, those are examples of AI-focused blockchains that Tron has partnered with, for example. Like we're integrating Chain into blockchain and smart contract development to have AI integration on the blockchain. So I know I've used it for art, but what I do is I do it to get an idea, and then I will then take that idea and take it further, tweak it, add to it, create something different. Or I've used it for when I want to search engine optimize writing that I'm doing content wise, or for research. I think now with Bard and some of the others, with the Bing integration of ChatGPT, you're going to see a lot more people use it. And you're going to see a lot of plugins for it. So one thing I would encourage you as an artist is look for opportunities to create plugins that connect businesses to AI, so they've got their own unique version of AI. So those are some trends that are kind of happening right now. So let me show you some examples of crypto ecosystems so you can get a picture of how vast this really is, and then we'll wrap up. All right, is that cool? All right, so here's a picture of just what a basic crypto ecosystem has. This one shows kind of the broad scope across multiple blockchains, and this is old. I got this back in 2021. And so you can see it's June 25th, 2021. So there's a lot that's come out since then, as you know, but it gives you an example of exchanges, wallets, blockchain platforms, stable coins, the tooling and research, intelligence, gaming and NFTs, DeFi. DAOs are not even on here because they really didn't kind of come onto the scene in popularity until the end of June 2021. So that would be on here now if you had it, and a lot of other things that have been developed since then. Ethereum is obviously one of the most significant ecosystems in all of crypto across the landscape. And so they've got, their stable coins, all their service groups, infrastructure and dev tooling, asset management tools, their exchanges. You can see all of those here, and there's multiple NFT marketplaces. I mean, you can go on and on and on and on with what's been developed even since 2021. You've got Binance Smart Chain, one of the major chains. Ethereum and Binance Ethereum has the most total value locked on their chain. Tron has the second most. Binance Smart Chain has the third. And so these are three of the most vast, expansive blockchain ecosystems. Cardano is one that gets a lot of criticism, but I think they really are trying to develop something unique. So we'll see how they survive the crypto winter and what's coming out of 2022. It'll be interesting. Solana took a major hit when FTX collapsed. And that's obviously a DeFi ecosystem catastrophe. But Solana is rebounding well and they have security issues, in my opinion. And so I think they're trying to figure those out. It'll be interesting to see how they go. But you can see all that's in across their ecosystem, even back when this was put out in 2021. XRP or Ripple has an incredibly vast and significant ecosystem, and they tie into real world solutions. So it's really interesting what they're developing. And I would even put Coinbase, which you can see it's not a Ripple component, but Coinbase is, I would say, trying to do some things similar to what Ripple did, but they already have a massive user base and the chance to really create basically a digital asset banking concept that's bankless and outside of the banking system. And if you haven't seen their recent ad campaigns, you should check it out. Polkadot, I think, still developing some amazing things. This is an example of how vast their ecosystem is. And I can put this PDF, by the way, into the Cohort 6 channel after we get done, so in case any of you want it. The Terra ecosystem obviously has a lot of criticism now with a lot of interesting things going on there. Here's the Tron ecosystem. Tron Scan is like Etherscan, if you're familiar with that. The Tron Link wallet is probably the most significant wallet. BitTorrent is really interesting. It's a data transfer and video media transfer blockchain component that's a layer 2 in Tron. Probably the most significant NFT marketplace in Tron is Ape NFT, and there is a huge opportunity there because so much commerce and money moves on Tron, and there really aren't any huge significant NFT projects yet. So definitely encourage you to check that out if you haven't done so, that it's worth checking out. Then you've got Tezos, which again I think is really significant. Would encourage you to take a look at them. Cosmos, I personally am impressed with. I think they're going to create an interoperability pathway that is unprecedented. One of the founders of Ethereum is who went and started Cosmos, and they're really trying to create a blockchain, a way that all the blockchains can talk to each other, if that makes sense. And I will get to that. Yes, the current regulatory environment and how it affects how things are going. In fact, shameless plug, I'm co-hosting now a new podcast called the TRON Policy Report. Our first episode we did really quickly because it's our fourth technically, but we did really quickly the one that's about to come out later today, because we were trying to get in on a bill that's coming out in Illinois tomorrow. So we did that one really quickly. It'll probably be better in the next few episodes because we rushed that one so much. But all that to say, I will speak to the policy component here in just a minute. Thanks for asking that question. Wrapping these up, let's see here. Internet computer, I've already spoken about. I personally think internet computer protocol is going to be one of the most significant blockchain advancements that you see over the next decade. I believe that they, and this isn't financial advice, by the way, I believe that they are a layer 0, which layer ones are like Ethereum and Tron and Solana and Bitcoin. Layer 2s are like Polygon, Anchor, BitTorrent, Gala, those types. Layer 0 will be what I think will help move even all the layer 1s into the ability to have internet speed, web speed, everyday utility speed, and already you can move Bitcoin assets and Ethereum assets on the internet computer ecosystem. And so it's a really significant ecosystem, one that I would encourage you to check out. They do have several NFT marketplaces, Yumi and Intropo, more that are even listed here. Yumi and Intropo are probably two. Bionic just released is another one. So those are all really good. The Flare ecosystem is similar to Cosmos in that they're trying to bridge multiple blockchains. And so they're really interesting. Osmosis has some of the best art and user friendliness in what they do. Alliance Block is an enterprise ecosystem. VeChain is another one that's trying to help companies with supply chain issues and logistics issues. You're going to see more and more of that. I mentioned how Cosmos is trying to create interoperability. And so to where blockchains can talk to each other, you can kind of see an example of that there. All right. So before I wrap us up here and just move into more of a use case conversation with you, any questions about these various ecosystems? I see you typing, Amanda, and then also Espinosa. I'll answer the policy question here in just a minute.
Jason, it's Jerry here at Sungrazers. I'm going to be lazy and do this by voice rather than typing.
That's all good.
Thank you. History doesn't repeat itself, but it sure as hell rhymes. And I keep looking back to the time of the dot-com bubble, which was a necessary thing that had to happen, because Web 2 didn't really become what we now know as the internet until the dot-com bubble. And prior to that, everybody was, there was coming out of the woodwork with websites and so on and so on. And there had to be a clean out in order to allow the rocket ship to take off. Do you agree that we're at the same moment in Web3 where there's got to be a massive clean out of all of these, shit coins, excuse my language, and blockchains that are really not hacking it up against other blockchains, such that it's the equivalent time of when Yahoo had done all of the heavy lifting on search engines and Google watched quietly and came out of the woodwork and went, bang, we're going to own this space. Do you think we're in an equivalent time with Web3?
I do actually, and I think we are. The word I've been using. I was actually on a Benzinga panel and then a Benzinga Twitter space this week talking about this very subject. And I personally think we're about to hit a moment of consolidation. I think you're going to see, and it's because the same thing happened. And I love your quote. I think I spelled that right? Consolidation. I think we're going to see what happened with the .com happen also with blockchain tech. I mean, we've got an enormous amount of different cryptocurrency and blockchain segments going on. I think that segmentation has created almost an unusable silo, a group of silos that so many are not going to make it, but they need to consolidate because the purpose that they are trying to really branch out in and the need they're trying to meet is still important. And so I think you're going to see some of the larger blockchains in kind of almost buy up, so to speak, acquire, maybe a better way to say it, some of these smaller ones. You're going to see players like, even like you just gave the example of Google, you're going to see players come out from behind where maybe they don't look like they're in the forefront right now, but they'll make a huge play and end up then consolidating some of the other players into what they do. But I think in the next 2, 3, 4 years, you'll see one consolidation, kind of a phase of consolidation, and then another phase. And I think you're going to see that as we settle into what the infrastructure really looks like for Web3.
Thank you. Yes, I couldn't agree more. And for us as artists, the important thing is that the we put an enormous amount of investment in time and effort and study into where we're going to put our art. And for all of us here in Tezos is really, really significant. But there have been a couple of occasions recently when we've watched other systems teeter, not fail, but very, very nearly. I mean, Nifty Gateway got I think it was a $1 billion exposure to the FTX saga. And we were talking yesterday about how Lone Origin, suddenly got sold to eBay. And I sort of have all of the antenna up for which of these multi blockchains are going to fall apart, because what one doesn't want to do is go all in one place and then find that one bet on the wrong horse.
Yeah, I think it's wise what you're saying. I mean, every NFT project that and like I said, my style with them is not to be their manager, quote unquote. I try to hand it off and they run with it. And everyone that I've advised, strategically helped launch, I pushed them to go multi-chain, and only 2 so far have taken me up on it. And I don't think they regretted it. I mean, I think they appreciated having the chance to be on ICP, to be on Tezos, to be on Ethereum, to be on Solana, to be on Polygon. And you might say, doesn't that devalue my art? Well, no. I mean, it's okay. Right now, Ethereum, whether we like it or not, right now, Ethereum is really one of the central places for you to put your art, right? But Tezos is just as significant, in my opinion, and for a lot of artists, more significant, because they don't want to pay all of the ugly gas fees, and they don't want their collectors to pay it either. And so, like, I push people and tell them, if you want to have like almost like a upper class, tier 1, so to speak, presence on Ethereum, because that's where people who are degens and maybe have all the money in the world can do what they're going to do. That's fine. You can have some founders concepts there, but you really need to branch out into where actual commerce is taking place. And what I mean by that is, look at the blockchains that are moving the most money. And I don't mean necessarily illegally, but look at the ones that are moving a lot of money, right? And understand the same principle of business that makes Burger King and McDonald's open up their restaurants across the street from each other is the same principle that needs to be applied here. And that is that when you've got a lot of foot traffic, so to speak, moving money across a blockchain, it's a good place to set up shop. And so look for the NFT marketplaces that are on some of those high commerce blockchains, because that's where you're going to see people who have the money to be able to pause and take a look at art and music and all the various things that come with the cultural art side of NFT technology. Because the enterprise side of NFT technology, which is going to be incredibly disruptive, is also going to be a big money-making venture, but it's not going to be where the average everyday person moves their money for commerce. It's going to be where major corporations are buying up spots to have a better opportunity to understand their logistics and their supply chain and things like that. But where the everyday person is going to be moving money, it's why the DeFi ecosystem understanding is so important. if you can see where actual everyday commerce and community is happening and you set up shop there, you've got a better chance to make it. And so I would encourage you to pay attention to that. I think it's an important thing, Sungrazers, and I appreciate you bringing it up. Any other questions before we move on? I really love all of y'all's PFPs, by the way. Like, please, like, make sure we connect on Twitter or LinkedIn or whatever. I'm on all of that, or Instagram if you're there. I'm not on Instagram a whole lot. I mean, I have a presence there, but I don't post a ton. But I'm on Twitter and LinkedIn a lot, so I want to keep up with the art you guys are creating. All right, so as we wrap up, I want to give you a couple stats that I find pretty significant. First of all, take a look at this. In comparison, in 2020, the total crypto market cap for all cryptocurrencies was 392 billion in 2020. This was October 2020. So in October 2020, 392 billion, right? Here's the current. So today, the total global crypto market at this moment is 1.13 trillion. 1.13 trillion. Right? So 1.23% increase over yesterday, but I mean, you can see it. I mean, even, and you look at some of the charts here. And by the way, if you do look at charts, if you're one of those people, crypto, you really have to pull out to the month by month charts. It's not, currency exchange is different than stock markets. Stock markets, you can look at daily and 5-minute and 30-minute and 1-minute charts, but crypto and currency exchange, you need to pull out more to the month by month. Thanks for throwing that in there, Ying. I appreciate it. All right, so let me show you this also, because I think it's really interesting. Did you know that Ethereum moved $11.6 trillion in 2021? Visa only moved 10.4. So when people tell me things like DeFi is dead, NFTs are dead, blockchain tech is dead, everybody's moved on to AI, blah, 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 blah. When they tell me that, I'm like, yeah, okay. Like, people aren't paying attention, right? When that stat alone is demonstrative of how significant this moment is in financial history. And I will tell you that we are still so early. Like, the fact that this already has happened is incredibly significant to me. All right. So like I said, I'll put this PDF in the residency number 6 cohort channel when we get done here, so that you can take a look back through it. This again was back in, I think, 2022, maybe. But here's some blockchain real world use cases, and there's a whole lot more than this now. But you can see how the government identity right now, digital identity concepts on the blockchain are going to be massive. I mean, it's gonna completely disrupt the way we do travel and the way we do IDs and the way that we do verification. I think resumes are going to be completely tied to your digital wallet, which, by the way, there is a branding problem. I think we need to quit calling it a wallet and probably call it more, I don't know, your personal ID. I don't know. But like on the websites, instead of saying connect wallet, it just needs to say connect, because I think people have some kind of mental block when they think, I'm going to connect my wallet here. But anyway, that's just personal opinion. But I think the ID piece of it's going to be big. Insurance, we've talked about some of these, carbon offsets, real estate's already huge, healthcare, supply chain's already huge. The energy component, we have the TRON Climate Initiative, for example. There's a lot of stuff going on there. Tourism, I already showed you Trivala.com. I mean, music, I think, is going to be really significant. And so a lot of different use cases you can see there. Some of the top ones already we're seeing are peer-to-peer, yield farming, staking, DEXs, NFTs, DAOs, but we'll see even more than that. Okay, I wanted to show you these two slides, and then I'll just completely open it up for Q&A. And I'll come back to first, Espinosa, about the policy stuff. But I'll show you these two slides. So this is from the Crypto Oasis Ecosystem Report from the United Arab Emirates. And look at this. This is just United Arab. So this is just UAE, right? And these are the global protocols, the Web3 infrastructure, the digital assets, crypto exchanges, metaverse, NFTs, DeFi, tech, legal compliance, other industries, financial venture, universities, news, economic. This is all UAE. Like, just process that for a minute. So, I mean, the Middle East, Dubai, I mean, a lot of there are probably 10 cities right now globally that have really said, from a DeFi and a crypto ecosystem standpoint, we want to become the hub, right? The UAE as a country is at the forefront of that. This is a really amazing visual to me that demonstrates how much work they're already doing to really bring people there. Time to move. I see that. Yeah, Hong Kong right now, Paris, Dubai, Singapore. Although Singapore is super expensive to live in. I would say Toronto, and then there's one town in Switzerland. I'm drawing a blank on the name of it, but it's a smaller city, not one of their major cities, but it's kind of the hub. I mean, there's several. Like I said, there's about 10 cities that are really vying for that top spot, and so interesting. This was a slide I wanted to show you. This is from the 2022 Geography of Cryptocurrency report from Chainalysis, which, if you don't follow Chainalysis, I encourage you to do so. I'll spell it for you in case that helps. Chainalysis. Yeah, Zug, that's it. Thank you for finding that. And then Mexico City also, I agree completely, Espinosa does. I mean, there's in Mexico City, and then forgive me, I'm drawing a blank now. I read 2 articles about 2 weeks ago on one of the major cities in South America that's also really vying to be in that spot. So to be a major crypto hub. But yeah, look at this slide. I thought this was interesting. So right now, and this is just North America, okay? Because this report, by the way, looks at all regions. Like, you can see, it even goes to Latin America. I mean, it looks at all the various regions. So I encourage you to get it if you haven't seen it. But check this out. So right now, if you look from July 2021 to June 2022, when they compiled this data, you had about this much in total value received for airdrops, bridge components, smart contracts, token smart contracts, derivatives, lending contracts, the decentralized exchanges. Look at NFTs, right? Look at gaming and entertainment. So here again, like Amanda, when you were asking about combining music and animation, I mean, I think, look at the room for growth and where gaming and entertainment are going to go from a blockchain tech perspective. Gaming, for whatever reason, has not embraced NFT technology yet, and the ones that do are going to realize how significant it is and kind of pioneer their way to close this gap, to where you see in the blockchain world more and more of a revenue stream for gaming and entertainment. So I thought that was an interesting visual there. All right, so let's wrap up here. We've got a lot, but on the policy side, Espinosa, I would say, and let me look back at your question to make sure I get it exactly how you asked it. Yeah, I mean, I would say right now in the U.S., I personally, I'm worried that we are pushing innovation out, and um, there are a number of people that are fighting back against that. Um, but and also because there's been such a lack of clarity on the federal national level, a lot of the states are taking steps toward it. In fact, that episode of TRON Policy Report that I mentioned earlier, we interviewed one of the policy leaders and lawyers there in Illinois, and to talk about the bill that goes potentially to the floor tomorrow. It may get delayed, but it basically provides some regulatory clarity in Illinois because Chicago has become a big hub for blockchain and Web3 companies and startups, and so they want to get some clarity. And so the states are really having to step in because the national at the national level there's been such incredible confusion. And so I think though that is forcing a lot of companies to begin to think about how to shift gears. It's why you've seen Ripple move a lot of their headquarters to Toronto and to London. It's why you've seen Coinbase begin to look into other opportunities, including the tour that Brian just had in the Middle East. I mean, you're seeing more and more of the crypto companies that have significance beginning to look elsewhere, and I think it's creating a really interesting dynamic right now that if we can't get some clarity on this, we're going to push innovation out, and you won't see the American cities be that hub that for technology that they have been before. Now, having said that, I do think there are a lot of people fighting for that clarity to come, and so I believe that the 2024 election, both Senate, Congress, and presidential, will actually have a serious an aspect of it. One of the major issues will be not only inflation, but will be what the financial system is doing and what decentralized finance offers. And I think you'll see crypto be a major point of concern in the election. You're already seeing huge groups donate huge amounts of money to candidates that are willing to run with a crypto focus in their platform. And so you're going to see lawmakers begin to embrace either for or against crypto, begin to embrace the moment and speak up and speak out. And so I'm hoping over the next 2-3 years that we'll see that regulatory clarity that we've been looking for. Does that answer your question? So what other questions do you have? As we've got a few minutes left here. Um, do we have one more from Sungrazers?
We've always got one more. I was just thinking about the things that you had said there, and too many subjects to pick up on. But you might just mention your thoughts on CBDCs, which I believe to be the sort of the evil brother of the decentralization that we're working towards. Do you agree with that?
I do. I do agree with that. And I don't mean to be ugly about it because I know this is being recorded, but I'm not completely anti CBDCs if they are being used um, to help bridge people who are completely engaged and trapped in the traditional finance side, if they're being used to help bridge the gap and move people into more the digital asset side of the global financial system. And by the way, I mean, that global financial system is in a massive renovation, under a massive renovation right now. Even the way that money is moved internationally is being changed. You can look it up if you're interested to learn more about it. Google search the ISO 20022 adoption program. It went into place in March of this year. By November of 2025, every country has to move money internationally through encrypted methods. Already, I think there's 28 or 29 countries that are involved. And so what does that mean, right? Well, that means that people are going to be doing international trade and monetary movement with crypto. Will that be CBDCs? Will that be stable coins? Will that be another version? Will it be Bitcoin? Will it be an altcoin? It's hard to say. Ripple has certainly, XRP wise, and Ripple has certainly positioned themselves along with Zenfin and XTC and Stellar with XLM. They've positioned themselves to be a major player in that game. But I would just say that if CBDCs are intending to help bridge the gap between TradFi and DeFi and this quantum financial reset that's occurring, because it'll eventually probably be called the quantum financial system because it'll be based more on a quantum computing at a global scale. That's a whole nother conversation. But I do think if CBDCs, though, are about like what happened in Nigeria, you can Google search it. A lot of people are watching what happened in Nigeria with CBDCs and have really are taking some caution. But multiple governments are developing CBDCs. The last count I saw was 61. Could be more than that now. And so central bank digital currency, which means that the government still is tied into the central authority of it, and the central banking system has a complete authority over it. It can be scary, the freedom that it takes away, the potential to, if someone doesn't like what you're doing, they can lock your accounts. It can be scary what potentially the play out of that could be. But if CBDCs are being created because governments are realizing that cryptocurrency and DeFi are the future, then I would suggest that type of development is a good bridge. But ultimately, if the true ethos of decentralization is actually has nothing to do with a CBDC idea, it's actually the opposite of the ethos of decentralization. Yeah, so Ape NFT, I mean, it's had some ups and downs. I like it from the standpoint of I think there are some creative artists that are trying to do some interesting things on there. Like one of my favorites is Tron Ninjas, for example. The Tron Bull. I like that collection. I mean, you've got some copycat collections on there, which happened early on when it launched back in 2021. But take away the copycat collections for Ape NFT, and it really is a good platform. And like I said, there's so much commerce happening on the Tron blockchain that it's a good place to at least have think of it as having a storefront, right? Like if you put NFTs on Ape NFT, think about having a storefront on the Tron blockchain. That's kind of what you've got there. And so you're engaging in that commerce highway. But it's easy to get in. It costs, I'm trying to remember, they do charge right now. I think that may go away one day, but right now they charge, I want to say it's a certain amount of TRX. I forget how much it is, to be able to launch onto the platform. I think they do that more just to make sure you're serious, right? So that not anybody can just show up and do it, but it's not a huge amount, like the gas fees on Ethereum. I want to say it's like the equivalent of $50 US. And so, if anybody needs help with that, let me know. If you're curious about it, let me know. I'd be interested in trying to help you launch onto that platform. But and I wouldn't ask for anything there. I just would love to see this cohort. If you're interested in trying and experimenting there, you're welcome to do that. But yeah, does that answer your question though? I mean, I think it's a positive thing, good opportunity there. Fuzzy Ocean, I think, is the name of another one. And what I like about Fuzzy Ocean is it's multi-chain, but they do have a branch of it that does that allows you to post on. So I have a question about music. Do you think Object would be a good platform to mint combinations of visual art and music? Well, sure. I mean, I like Object a lot. So if you guys know of a music NFT solution on Tezos, please post it here. I mean, it would be great to see. But so far, I've been directing people who want to put music NFTs on Tezos. I've been directing them to Object. I can't remember my username on Object. I think it's either Jason C. Dukes or Decentra5. Yeah, it's either Jason C. Dukes or Decentra5. There you go. Thanks, Yinga. Yeah, and then there's my OpenSea. Like I said, I've got NFTs on Tezos and ETH and Polygon and Tron. Yeah, there's my card website. Thank you. You're very kind to throw those there. So yeah, those are ways to stay connected and follow me. Let me know that you're in the cohort when you do. And because of some of the NFT projects I've been in before, I've had to limit some of the, like on Telegram and Twitter and others, I got so much scam and spam stuff. So it's not easy to DM me, but once I follow you, you can DM me. And so that's why I say, let me know that you're following me, and I'll follow you back. And then you can DM me. I love that, Sungrazers. I'll check it out. Video art, music is NFTs, cross chain. Go to this and see. All right. Very cool. Good stuff. Well, I'll go on Twitter here in just a minute and follow back. Well, it's been a joy to be with you guys today. I know we went over here a few minutes, but let's stay connected. I really believe in what VCA is doing, and so I'll try to be as available as I can be. My job with Tron sometimes gets really busy, especially if we've got big announcements to make, because I do a whole lot of the writing there, but the senior writing there. But all that to say, it's been such an incredible chance to hang with you guys. I love it. Love what you're doing. Let's stay in touch. I want to keep seeing the art that you're creating, and I hope the rest of the cohort goes really well.